Hello. So it's been a while. No, it hasn't been a while because I guess it posts every Tuesday. So, I have all my videos scheduled up. Yeah, I'm just gonna get to the video, but it feels like I haven't made a video in a long time. I think it's been like 2 weeks now, but yeah, since then I've gotten like a haircut, and I think in the last video I took a video last time where I have a haircut, but I don't know if you can see me. Maybe I have it FaceTime because I'm doing the rosary or something like that. But nevertheless, if this is the first time, yeah, this is usually how I do it. Just chop it all off and then I'll let it grow back because I just get lazy. But I really don't like long hair, so that's why it's all done. Yeah. So today I don't really have much of a topic for the video, but it's been a while since I've made one, and these kind of help me focus on different elements that I'm kind of going through, or different moments in my faith growth, or it can just be about my life that I'm kind of going through right now, and it's having me think a lot about things. So prayer is kind of a really big focus because it's kind of an always thing now. The divine office, I kind of talked about that in my last video. Maybe it was my last video, and also the rosary. It's a huge kind of thing that I'm trying to do right now, and I don't know how long it's gonna last. I can't say it's gonna last for years and years and years, but it's really cool. I really enjoy doing it, and I already kind of went in depth about what I think about these things, about prayer in general, and I don't know if it's useful to go into it again. I'm excited. I'm always excited to talk about something that I'm doing. I'm actively trying to build up, right? But I can't say that I'll say anything different that I did in the last video. Prayer is just a thing that really helps me be more in communication with what I think, with God, and yeah, those are kind of the bigger prayers that I'm praying right now. So the divine office, the rosary, that's pretty much it, and mass, of course. But yeah, it's kind of just this is kind of the bigger things in my life right now, right? Maybe I'll talk about the theological virtues. That's something I've kind of always wanted to talk about, but it's been difficult because I still don't really understand it. It's a complicated thing. It's it's a divine thing that it's, I would say, imparted. There's an imparted, infused, and something else, righteousness, and I can't remember, or justification maybe, but I'm pretty sure it's an infused, where it's it's given to you because you ask for them and you receive them into your heart, something like that. But I'm pretty sure if I don't get it right, it's complete heresy, right? So I'm very careful about which one it is. So I think it's imparted righteousness, or not imparted righteousness, but yeah, it's imparted righteousness, but it's not. I don't think it's in regards to the theological virtues. But there's a word for the theological virtues compared to the cardinal virtues, right? So the cardinal virtues, ones that Aristotle came up with, God knows when Aristotle lived, but he came up with these: prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude. And those are all ones. What those mean, and the Catholic Church has adopted those as or has seen those as good enough, as good to considered a part of its doctrine, or a part of itself. It encourages it. That's what I'm saying. Is the cardinal virtues you can attain yourself just by living a virtuous life, right? Temperance, justice, fortitude, prudence, and you kind of can get these things, I would say, through just living a virtuous life, but it's not easy, and very few people live a very, very virtuous lifestyle. We all strive to it, and we do have moments of it, but then we do fall short, and that's for that reason we see a lot of people fighting for things. It's the reason we fight for most of the things that we fight for. So prison reform, in terms of justice, people getting way too many, their sentences being ridiculously just being ridiculous, just in that sense. So justice in that sense, you're just prison reform, that kind of stuff. Temperance, we're all trying to fight. I think it has to do with addiction, and trying to be, relaxed when it comes to these things that could lead you down a pretty dark path, like drugs, or any kind of lustful stuff. All these things, people when they're not temperate about it. It's like temperate is a thing that you kind of need to take maybe to most activities, because we've all met somebody that's way too much into something that doesn't make any sense why they're into this. You know what I'm saying? Like they're into dolphins or something, or horses. I haven't really met those people, but I've seen like TV shows where we've all seen like My Strange Addiction. It's like, what are you doing? You know, it's like, have some temperance when it comes to these things and not like indulge yourself. I'm hoping I'm getting that virtue right, but I'm pretty sure that's what temperance means. And yeah, temperance is something you need to take to probably most situations, and kind of a temperance mindset when it comes to, that's kind of the mindset I take to my religious faith, because like religion, or I would say, let's just say the Catholic faith, is something you can, like, I believe you can completely dive into, and you won't be like, it won't lead you to something destructive, right? But at the same time, it could lead you down a path where you kind of let's call these people oversaved. It's like you're so Catholic that you start to like think like anything that is Catholic is perfection, and I don't see that as the case, because like yeah, your whole like priests, like it's pretty much their whole life is the Catholic faith. But if the priest has no sort of like life outside of the church, sort of a thing, right? Or sort of like conversations they can have outside of it, then there's nothing they can pull and make any meaning out of the faith. So I think it's important, yeah, to be very, I think, devoted to your faith. But it's like, it's not that you should like take your foot off the pedal, but like take some time and be aware of what's actually going on. Is it actually your Catholic faith that's like flourishing, or is it your own perspective on how things should be, right? So if like you don't pray the rosary one day, oh, now today's gonna be terrible. Is it really though? Like, is that really how it works? Consider that. Or you need to read everything in Latin, or you need to learn the Latin language, or you need to learn all the saints, you need to learn about all their lives. It's like, do you really though, or do you just want to? And is it like a vanity project? You know, it's like, just understand, like, Protestants are pretty good about this. Protestants are pretty good about like not trying to overstep. Like, I wouldn't say they're good at practicing it, because they're just as human as Catholics are, but they're very like vocal about like not taking things, like they won't do the rosary, bro, because they're just like, it's just, you're worshiping Mary. They're very, very careful. They're very careful when it comes to that stuff. Like, they want to stay strictly biblical, which is like, okay, but it's like in that sense, right, where you just become super guest Catholic, right? And then it's just like, what are you anymore? You know, like, are you even a human being, or are you just these things that other people have said throughout history? Yes, that's been passed down by the apostles, but just understand that there's like fallible stuff within the church that we're always trying to reform, and consider that as we move forward, like in your lifetime, right? Don't get so caught up in like these things or whatever, right? So that's kind of like my little rant on temperance. Just temperance is like a good thing to take to most things. It just helps you to be like a person again. It just helps you to make sure you maintain that humanity within you, and you can still like relate to other people, so that whatever it is that you're passionate about, it can still be effective. It's not this like, you know, like say Mother Teresa had temperance, I would assume, right? She was super Catholic, but it was like in the right sense. You know, she was out in the world helping people, the poor people, and that was like a good way for her to relate, not just to them, but to the rest of the world. So same Mother Teresa, that's why we look at her that way, right? And yeah, she was a fallible woman. She probably had a lot of sins, but it's that temperance that kept her from becoming like this lunatic that claims to be Catholic, to this saint that we consider one of the most holiest people that lived in the 20th century, right? Justice, temperance, prudence. Prudence is something that, yeah, another thing, yeah, we fight for most of these virtues. Prudence is something that we need to plan ahead for. Like, just understand, like, there is a future. Like, yes, the time is now, but with the time now, it is to plan for the future, or prepare yourself for the future. Because even as Catholics, like, you're preparing for the second coming of Christ. And if he doesn't come by the time you're still on earth, like if you would have died, but like it's still like you were preparing for it. Like it's like today's passage was, I think it was Mark, or it was Second Peter chapter 2 or something like that, where it's not just in those chapters, but it's that those words that they use where it's like it will come like a thief in the night. It'll like the doors will shut. Like that's always like a little like anxiety provoking, right? And you shouldn't feel anxiety about that, but it's the words that they use to tell you that, like, look, yeah, you're here to try and be a good person, virtuous, receive these gifts, but be ready for this thing. Be prudent. It's the same thing with just politics or just like the environment or anything. People try their best to be prudent about things, and usually they get mad at other people who aren't as prudent as they are, because now this mission can't be continued or fulfilled. So like the environment thing, not everybody's like acknowledging climate change. So the people that are advocating for stopping like the rapid progression of it, do like through these various like methods, alternatives, whatever, electric cars, etc. It's not getting done as fast as they want, because like other people aren't as prudent as they are. Other people think, fuck it, whatever, I really don't care. And it's the same thing with most things, like us Catholics, we get a little frustrated, and we try not to. Like Christians get a little frustrated when we talk to people who aren't part of the faith, because that's just the way we feel about it. It's like, it's coming, like, please be ready. It's like we ask other people that possibly aren't ready, to also get ready, like with us. We also got to check ourselves and make sure that we're ready. So prudence is important in that sense, but prudence can apply to anything, like not just religion, but also like society, politics. Getting ready to pick the next president, going out and campaigning is prudence. You're trying to plan for the future and like make things right, so that like, yeah, today you kind of like sacrifice, but tomorrow, the next day, in the next few months, you can have a feast or whatever, right? Fortitude. I think fortitude is just being like, like firm, and not firm to the point of like, I guess you have to be temperate about being fortuitous, but it's important to have that, because if you're just this person that kind of just like, I think that's what fortitude means. You just kind of like go back and forth between things. You don't really stand for anything on like a lot of like on important issues. Then it's then you're almost like a nothing. You it's not that you don't exist, but you're almost, it's like it's like why people say it's almost like talking to a wall. Like you're not, it's like you're not there. You almost don't exist, but you're frustrating to them, because you still have an effect in this world, whether you're gonna vote or not, whether you're gonna do this action or not. It's like you need to be fortuitous when it comes to important things, such as sin and your faith and like etc. To not only help yourself, but also help other people, because it's gonna affect them, that sort of thing, right? So those are the 4 cardinal virtues. Aristotle, Catholic Church is like dope. You can obviously come to these things, because Aristotle wasn't religious. You can obviously come to these conclusions without your faith. Very possible. But the theological virtues are different. Faith, hope, and love. So faith, hope, and love is something, like I said, I think it's infused, imparted, one of those words, whichever is not heretical, into the person that is asking to receive them, because it's a free gift, and if you ask for them, then you can, you do get to receive it, right? And people mistake a lot of these words. They use these words interchangeably with words that completely misrepresent what they mean. So faith, I don't really know the word that people use the word faith, but they usually mean something else when they say faith. Faith, you don't get to redefine it based off of what you think Christians do. It's like, and I'm talking to people that aren't believers, like, because this is like, it's not an easy, even believers that kind of think this is what faith is. It's like, it's a little frustrating, because this is what I used to think faith was, and I never really questioned it, and it's always been like, I know this isn't what faith is. Like, it's not, because there's people that don't behave the way I do about it, right? So like, they have the reasons for it, and it makes a lot of sense to them. They have a lot of peace and joy. So what is it that they have that I don't have that makes me think that this is what faith is, right? And it's the same thing with people that aren't a part of the faith. It's like they see it that way, and they can't really let go of that definition, because it's a definition that it's a definition that describes something that we receive from something we consider divine. So you can't like take it and then redefine it and then act like that's what we're talking about, because it just doesn't make any sense. You're just strawmanning the position, and nothing fruitful comes out of that conversation, right? So faith is, I'm gonna try my best. So it's like the perfect intelligence of everything. It's the perfect understanding of everything that is and that was like created, and understanding that that exists, and it doesn't flow from nothing. It flows from this higher being that gave these things its attributes, because without the higher being they wouldn't exist, because it wouldn't make sense. So for example, like people consider like intelligence, not let's say knowledge, right? As people consider the things to know of this physical world, which is pretty much like just the naturalistic world. There is like an everything of all, like there's an end to understanding all of it. We don't know what it is, but there is like the theory of everything. I don't know if like that movie has any validity, but there's people, that's what people are trying to pursue, like the understanding of everything, just like the knowledge of the physical world, not just not just on Earth, but like, you know, like the universe. And we understand that there exists that perfect knowledge. There exists that perfect understanding of it all, right? There's no mistake in it. There's a perfect understanding of it. And from that's what we say flows from God, right? It's to understand that this perfect existence of things, yeah, perfect existence, it doesn't really end with the physical world, but it's like the physical world is complete in its knowledge, in its existence of all knowledge of everything. Like it's already there. Like for example, how can I explain this? Being able to not invent, but being able to understand what the components of glass are, and being able to make it a thing so you can have, or a computer, or medicine, whatever. These things, like this has always existed, but it's now that we've discovered how to produce it, put it out into the world, right? And it's just like all the knowledge that's perfect, or whatever, that's ever been perfect, that's always existed, flows like from God, right? And not just knowledge, but like wisdom, love, that sort of a thing, right? That's kind of that's what I'm gonna get to in a second. But it's that understanding that it exists, and we're trying to describe where that comes from. And that's what faith is, like an understanding that it's there and that it flows from something. It's not just there with no purpose. It's there like to make things kind of work and exist. And the same thing with wisdom. Like there is a perfect wisdom, there is a perfect justice, there is a perfect virtues just in general, and that from God it flows all these things. And with this understanding, that's what faith is. It's just this perfect intellectualization of like knowing all these things are there in perfection, but we always have like a limited perspective on it, and we could possibly one day discover everything that's physical and understand like the knowledge that surrounds, like that just describes it all, just like the words to describe it all, and be able to name it. But there's also wisdom, there's also love, there's also these things that are in our world that we can't just say well, knowledge and understanding the physical stuff is like the end of it. If we do, all right, then I guess that was like the plan since the beginning. But there's like a perfect thing, there's perfection that this flows from, and it's that faith that there is that. Does that make sense? That there is a perfect that there's a perfect of everything. There is a perfect and objective of everything. It's like it's perfect. That's what faith is. It's just understanding that exists. And then hope is understanding that exists, and one day getting to participate in that. That's like the hope, being able to participate in the future gifts of God, just being future divinity of God, being in His presence and His face. And yeah, that's pretty much hope. Hope is like, I think hope is like kind of like the transition into all these things, but it's like just the hope that you get to participate in all these things that have ever existed through like conversation with God, being in communion with Him, one day dying and being with Him. And then love is the fact that I think I kind of forget. I always forget what love is, but love is the fact that we get to participate in all of this. We get to participate in the fact that all this exists and that it has a purpose, and that we get to be in like that heavenly like realm of understanding it all. I would say understanding it all, I guess. And that's like charity, like love, hope, and charity. Those are the theological virtues. No, not love, hope, faith, hope, and charity. I think that's what charity is, right? Because it's crazy. Like if there is a perfection of everything, why? Because like based off of what we have so far, like in our limited capacity, why would we get to participate? Why would we get to participate in that? Why would we get to participate in this understanding of the perfection of everything? For most people, they don't. We don't get to. We die and then that's it. We just die not getting to know any of it, right? But getting to, if there is, that's the love, right? And being able to have access to it, kind of honored for a little bit, kind of some sort of a glimpse into it. Not the understanding of everything, right? But just being able to have that conversation, understanding that there is everything, and the hope that we get to participate in it, and the love that we actually are participating in it. That's like what the ultimate love is, because like everybody desires that. Everybody desires perfect prison reform. Everybody desires perfect relationship with their families, stuff like that. Perfect satisfaction in their life. The only time you realize you don't expect perfection is when you realize that there isn't any that you have experienced so far. You've only had moments of it, and that's when you feel good about it. But it's actually being able to, it's actually realizing that like, oh, there may not ever be a perfection, and losing that hope when you feel like you can't participate in that perfect love of understanding everything. Right, and I use the word understanding, but I don't think that's like an appropriate word to use. But like I would say participation, right? But yeah, that's pretty much my take on the theological virtues and the cardinal virtues. I think I completely botched it, but once I read more about it, I'm sure like I'll kind of come back and like correct stuff that I said in this video. This isn't me representing the Catholic Church. This is like just this is just kind of my maturation in understanding these things, because it's been better. Like I understand these things more than I did before. Back it was just like I really didn't understand what hope was. I thought hope was just expectation, which it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. And faith was just like this thing that you just kind of like had. You know, it like I knew it wasn't that, but I just didn't know how to like understand it a little bit more. And I'm getting a little bit better at it. And even though I said a bunch of wrong things in this video, it's just like there's just kind of like a maturation there, and I'm kind of like respecting that and trying to like share it, so that when I do actually have a better understanding of it and can explain it like in a more technical manner, then I can see, you know, like where it is that how much I actually have grown. Because even if I presented it perfectly, like I read it off of something, it doesn't mean like I fully understand it. So like I understand this because like the way I've been praying, because of like what I've been participating in, and it's just kind of something that like it kind of hits you a little bit because you get older, but also because you've kind of asked for that wisdom. But I know it's not complete. So all right, deuces.